afternoon, everybody, and a very warm welcome to all of you to this first panel discussion in the second edition of IndeComms. And the topic for this panel discussion is independent PR firms and the growth opportunities. We have a very interesting lineup of speakers here, as you all can see, and they need no introductions. And I'm sure this session is going to be very, very insightful, very informative, and there are going to be great insights, learnings and sharings for all of us. Thank you and welcome everybody. Thanks for being here. Before I proceed ahead with my set of questions, I would really want all of you to give us your individual perspective about what your understanding of growth opportunities as an independent PR firm is. And I would be allocating 1 minute each to everybody. So Hemant, we can start off with you.
Hello. So independent PR firms have great business growth opportunity. It goes with the growth of the country as a whole. And India is the fastest growing country in the world. So that is one that gives a lot of opportunities for growth. The second is over the years that understanding of the corporate sector towards public relations is also slowly changing. I mean, many years back, when I see people, a lot of corporate sector, they have never used to understand the PR as an effective tool. So that is changing year after year. So that is two. Overall, direction is positive. I mean, overall industry is growing. Within the growth number of the industry as a whole, the larger companies could be, PR firms could be growing slow, the smaller could be growing fast, but that is the law of economics. But most important is how we as a founders are approaching this entire thing. I mean, are we building a company which is built to last or built to sell? I mean, if we are looking at built to last, the approach will be a little more long term. If it is built to sell, then it will be like more cosmetic. So the overall growth perspective will change.
Thanks, Hemant. Mukesh, over to you.
Hi everyone. Thank you, Ritu, first of all, for inviting me to IndeComms. I represent an organization which operates in regional India. We work only in tier 2 and tier 3 towns. So I feel when it comes to growth, tier 2 and tier 3 towns has been the talk of the town. Whether it is the brands, startups, businesses booming, or even the government. Recently in August, there was another announcement of 12 more smart cities being announced by the government, and this time the cities are tier 3 and tier 4 towns, the ones that you might not have even heard about. A very small town, Dighi in Maharashtra, Rajpura Patiala in Punjab, and so on and so forth. So I feel whereas tier 2 and tier 3 towns are concerned, growth is unstoppable. It is happening year-on-year basis, and when I compare it with the 6 major metros that we have, where a majority of the money still flows when communication is concerned, that is changing, and I think in the next 5 years that is going to be the norm. So as far as regional India is concerned, I believe the growth for the next 5 years is here to be.
That's great. Thanks, Mukesh, for that. Nandita?
Yeah, I think there's never been a better time to be in public relations than now. And I just want us to think back to the time, which was about 35 years ago, where the foundation for our industry was actually set by independent founders. I think after that, there were many of us who set shop, but I do believe that to really bring in that tectonic change, the time is today. So there's a big role that independent founders can play in seeing our industry to the next level. So there are 3 things. One is technology, completely upending the way we work, live and play. Second, as a result, the growth of a lot of sunrise sectors, and a lot of the sectors that existed are today kind of waning. So there's a huge opportunity there. And third, you've caught the bus before many of us did. So regional is going to be really strong. We've just kind of touched the tip of the iceberg, in my opinion, where PR is concerned. And I love what you said, are we building to sell or are we building to last? There are some of us who've been, in this profession for about 25 years and built our firms to see the day here. And therefore, I think the choice that we have before us is to either kind of homogenize the way we are growing in terms of becoming generalist firms and then doing more of the same, or to actually leverage the diversity that exists to remain a boutique small firm, to become a large firm, or to become a specialist firm or a generalist firm, or even to become so specialized to explore the entire potential of public relations. Do we want to be internal comms specialists? Do we want to do only stakeholder engagement? Do we want to play only in digital? Do we want to do analyst relations? Do we want to build a CSR firm? And all of these belong to public relations. So I hope the opportunity, Ritu, is to wrest back what we abdicated to a lot of the specialist functions like public affairs and CSR today. So that really is the big opportunity for us.
Excellent. So basically you're saying you all can create a niche for yourself.
100%. And this is the time. This is the time.
Thanks, Nandita. Vikram.
Yeah, hi. So we are in Pune, and I remember Lokmanya Tilak. In fact, all of us should remember. He said that Swarajya ha maza janmasiddha adhikar hai ani to mi milavnarach. What he said is independence. And independence is, we are fortunate that we are independent agencies, and I believe independence allows us that agility to take risks that probably larger, more rigid firms cannot. While at the same time, growth does not come from just thinking about growth, but about anticipating the waves and grabbing it before it crests. So I think growth is a combination of foresight, collaboration, and innovation. When I say that, I mean when there is a new technology coming in, say for example AI came in, there are a lot of people who kept on just discussing whether AI is fruitful or not. But there are people who went ahead and made GPTs for each of the client and probably scaled pitches at another different level altogether. They collaborated with clients, and from the existing business itself, they were able to upsell, cross-sell, and actually make that pie itself bigger. So growth is a combination of a lot of things, and probably it's a mindset that we carry. If we think that we remain small and we be happy, I don't think that works in today's time. We need to push ourselves, and we need to grow, and we have seen that is possible today. We've known an agency which is 460 crores, Indian independent, large and growing, still growing. I think that is paving way for all of us to dream big and be as big as we can think of. And we really don't need to compare ourselves with the rest of the world. Yeah.
Well said, Vikram. So you need to have a broader mindset. Thank you. Yes, Vineet.
It's my turn? Wow. So we for Vineet, always coming last alphabet, somehow trained to say something which is not been said. And then today in this panel, very difficult, because every time I'll speak, people would have spoken about it, right? So I'll tell you, for me, how I see a growth. There was a phase when growth was just a sustenance. That I will retain all my employees this year and I'll retain all my clients this year, right? That was a phase. Then there was a phase which came in and said, hey, what is growth? This year I signed 3 new clients. This year I signed 3 new clients as a growth. You grew, right? So I personally feel it's about the choices you make, right? I've heard last time people talking about, no, I'm happy, I have 5 clients, I'm happy. That's a stage, that's a frame of mind, right? But your growth, sometimes you want it your way, but there are times in our industry especially, growth is not because what you want, growth is because what your teams want. So for me, if I really look at growth, I grew because of my teams wanted me to grow. Otherwise, they would have left Kaizzen and moved to some other agencies, right? Because we were static. So honestly, if I really look at it, industries, yes. Opportunities, yes. Many a times when you're an independent agency, you're a startup, you're a small, and I'm also very small right now, but it's not the choices you make. You would want to sign the biggest clients, but biggest clients are happy somewhere else, right? So what do? You say, whatever coming my way, I'll work on it. There is a chances you can create niche, but that niche also, you know, from an agency point of view, requires knowledge, trained man force, right? Trained people, right? That is all cost. So you always struggle between the cost and the growth and other things around the environment. But the way I really sum up this is, it's phases. Growth for me for first 5 years was being there, keep on doing good work, retaining my clients, looking at how I can, even hiring is a growth. Believe me, today if you get a good person on board, is a growth. And that's how Kaizzen's growth happened. So growth has different meaning for different people. I've just put in my experience what I felt the growth is for me.
Thanks, Vineet. It was very interesting to hear everybody's perspectives. So my first question to all of you is, how do you identify and capitalize on emerging industry trends to create new growth opportunities for your clients and your firm? Whoever wants to go first can go. Hemant, yes, we can start with you.
So I would like to talk about two trends which we are seeing. First is about the news consumption habits. I mean, few months back we had done a news consumption survey across 10 important large cities of the country. And so in the 18-24 category, that particular category, we found that 46% of respondents are consuming news on social media. Then second highest is online news portals, and third highest is the apps. Now within social media also, it is not only the publication handles which are giving news. It is also the reporters independently are giving separate news items themselves. Then there are independent content creators. X is good for, Twitter is good for breaking news. Video is very popular. So Insta is good for the younger audiences. So there's a huge trend, and the actual number of respondents who actually read the hard copy newspaper was 7 out of 100. Now this is a completely different news consumption habit and what we were seeing maybe 5 or 7 years back. And we need to customize our delivery platform, delivery to this particular audiences, and similarly even the cities, other segments also, even 50 plus, the actual number of people who were reading the hard copy newspaper was only 38. They're still, online is ruling, especially in the cities. So this is one trend that is changing us. The second is, it is data-led storytelling. Any large company, any mid-sized company, most of the companies are all automized or computerized. So there's a lot of data that they are capturing year on year. So can we use that data? Can we analyze that data and present it to the external world in a way to get them the mileage, the share of voice that they need? So these two trends are driving it. There are other trends also, but I mean everyone knows about it, so I'll not touch upon that, the AI and all that. So
thanks, Hemant. Mukesh?
Sure. There are a couple of things that I'm thinking about. I'm just being a little cautious on the first point so that it doesn't come across derogatory for regional PR firms or regional India, but I'll still say it. When we are talking about growth, especially in tier 2 and tier 3, the first part has always been replication. Whatever worked in metros was replicated in tier 3 and tier 2 India. It still remains the case. Whatever worked in metros 5 years ago is working in tier 2 towns now. And in a couple of years down the road, it might work for tier 3 and tier 4. But the second and more important part is listening to what people are doing, behaving, their cultural nuances, how they feel, their purchase considerations, and the growth that is happening in tier 2 and tier 3. Once we start listening to those people and understanding their decision-making parameters, that is what derives growth for us in regional India more than what is happening in the metros. And the third thing, which I mentioned in my first answer as well, what the government is doing. You listen to all the investors, whether it is a Warren Buffett or even ace business people in our country like Nikhil Kamath. Everybody says you follow the government, you follow the money, or you follow the government, you trace the money. if you see what government has been doing in the past 5 years, there has been a clear trajectory towards growth in tier 2 and tier 3 India. And that is what we need to follow, is what I feel in terms of business, in terms of consumption. We all know 85% of the population resides beyond metros. Still, the focus that we end up putting is on the economic times and times of India's of the world, without even understanding, like he mentioned, though I'll differ a little on the reading patterns, but ultimately only 1 out of 10 people can understand English. Forget about speaking, reading, understanding. He cannot even read, make a sentence, sign his name in English in India. So that means we are talking about 1 billion plus people who are only reading regional languages or communicating in regional languages. So when he spoke about the content creation, it's all about creating content in regional languages, whether it is YouTube, social media platforms, or even newspapers. The kind of trust regional media enjoys even now. People sitting in metros might jump from a Times of India today to an HT tomorrow, but somebody sitting in a Chandigarh, if he reads Tribune, he will keep reading. He's been reading Tribune for years. If we are sitting in Maharashtra, the kind of clout a Lokmat or a Lok Satta or a Sakal would have, even government, in case they want to create buzz around a policy, they would go to these publication houses. And for our clients also, we end up trusting the power and the trust regional media has developed or formed in the consumers. So 3 things. Replication on metros would remain, because there are certain things which are still happening in metros and we would need to replicate. Second, of course, what the government is doing. And third, which is most important, understanding what the changes that are happening amongst the thinking patterns of people residing in tier 2 and tier 3 India.
Thanks, Mukesh. Nandita?
So I think, Ritu, I'm interpreting your question a little differently. I'm saying, how do we as independent firms, perhaps at a startup stage, identify trends and then kind of bring that back to our clients and even to our own benefit? So I will be, I'm going to interpret it that ways. And, you know, I think it was a mindset that we, as a startup firm, and I go back 25 years, we were already, when we entered the market, there were already these big firms who had 6 offices. That was the cutoff, 6 offices minimum. They all had, you know, their, you know, kind of hands on some of the bigger brands. But the niche that we identified, because we founded this firm in Bangalore, was that there was no PR firm headquartered in Bangalore, other than at that time there was Corporate Voice, which was part of no, it was not Weber Shandwick. It was an independent firm, Ma Bozel, and they had Corporate Voice. Apart from that, no tech startup. And so we started off as a very, as a niche tech PR startup for startups in Bangalore, right? So that was the niche we identified. We were lucky because we always chose our clients with care. Clients we felt would lead us on to better clients, to better sectors, and help us find our way and navigate that. So we were, I would say, we're lucky, but, and I say this in all modesty, that I think we were also business smart in doing that, because to compete with some of the large firms, you needed to actually find that niche that would take you someplace. We were very lucky in our first year that we signed up Infosys, and therefore a lot, you know, the tendency is to client service, jump into client servicing when you sign up businesses. But the learning that you get from the clients you choose to work with is immense. You know, I come with no business background. All my learning on how to build a business has come from my observations. So how the founders of Infosys built that company. Sitting in all the quarter results, right? We managed about 52 or 54 quarter results for Infosys over the 18 years that we worked with them, was a learning. What were the business parameters that mattered to them, right? How do you kind of identify what are the kind of parameters for good, solid businesses, for longevity? So we chose our clients with care. They were unheard of, but at the same time knowing that retention of those clients, because working with them through the entire lifespan of a sector or a client was critical. So for us, Business acquisition was incidental, it's part and parcel of growth, but client retention was very important. So we used to set these. So I think the learning and the ability to identify trends that kept us ahead and helped us choose the right kind of clients and actually lead trends rather than follow them was really the choice of clients that we had. And they were all exemplary business people and also technocrats that helped us see the trend. So that was something we honed very early at the practice, and really that has held us in good stead throughout.
Thanks, Nandita, for that. And that was a very, very different perspective, I would say. Thank you. Vikram?
I think the future of PR would be more from a predictive analytics kind of a thing, because I believe more than catching trends, I think we need to now learn anticipating what trends would shape up to be, and then accordingly, not only look at the sector that we would go about, but also, what kind of messaging to what kind of, positioning that probably would a client would look at, because a lot is changing. And Hemant spoke about data. This data will really come handy if we really learn to work with data. A second thing, what I feel, what Mukesh spoke about is regional will continue to grow. There are new literates joining every day, and you'd be surprised to know, in my past organization, we did one small exercise, and we found that, not by me, but another team, we found that there were about 300 Urdu language publications itself. And if that's the kind of a power of regional media, and we often ignore that. So, brands are really not ignoring it. Brands know where the consumers are, and hence I think regional will continue to be our super powerhouse, not only for India, but also for us agencies that work in this direction.
Thank you, Vikram.
Again, the same situation. But let me first tell you, Nandita, there is a quote which says, luck favors brave. Right, so you did it. And when I started, of course, practice was one of the things which was in my mind. And but unfortunately, I didn't find a niche, because everybody had taken those niches by that time. So, you said, okay, you start whatever, you get it. So that's one. Second thing which I wanted to sort of comment on, this whole language media part. If we really look at top 10 publications, Times of India is the only English paper which is in sort of top 10. How long? We don't know. I can't say that it will remain so for next 5-10 years. No. I'm sure it's gonna go down. The other thought is, would it matter also as a trend that you need to see top 10 publications? I don't think so, because the way online happens, right? So I follow, generally what I do is I follow a particular news, and there are certain online platforms, probably on Instagram or YouTube, I will follow what their reach is on these online platform, OTT platforms and stuff like that. Very interesting. Very rare where you would find a traditional media online platform has a larger reach than many other which are only online platforms. We know all of these, say Tatva India, Logical India, and Better India, and things like those, right? So you follow a particular news and you see how's the trend going on these platforms. You'll realize they have a larger reach than any of the traditional media platforms on say Instagram, YouTube or whatever. So that's a very interesting trend which I have noticed, that why do we always need to depend on that? The second trend which I always felt is YouTube. Now we've just finished a campaign where our deliverable to client was, of course, traditional PR, yes, important, because that's what you are known for. But we said, we'll give you 100 YouTube platforms. Now, just imagine, we've got almost 450 stories pan-India on traditional PR. They said, what is the reach? Sorry, I can't give you that reach. But those 100 YouTube stories, after a week, I knew exactly that it has reached 1.2 billion people and it had this kind of an impact. There was, right? So the way I really see it as a trend. Now, the other thing is, very interesting point here, that 450 stories in regional media or whatever across has given me X amount, but this 100 YouTube channels has given me 3X amount. So understand the opportunity here is not a traditional media anymore. I'll support this point. You know, when I started Kaizzen, I was fighting for retainers of 1.5 lakh, 2 lakhs, 2.5 lakhs. Believe me, 80% of my clients, we are still fighting for the same amount. 12,000 rupees or 10,000 rupees was a beginner's salary at that time, trainees. We pay 40,000, 45,000 rupees for a beginner, but I am still fighting for the same retainers. How is it justified? So if I have to see this trend, we have to see how, we cannot do away from PR because that's an entry point for us. But the trend is, how do we capture the larger pie in this business, right? Now, that could be anything. The other very important trend here, which is only with us, which is the independent agency, which is agility. Suppose we do not have a particular service in our industry, but our client is with us for say 8 years, 10 years. They trust us. We can always partner with an independent guy or a smaller agency or a like-minded agency and provide them those services, right? That's the power of partnership. And I think this forum is something which would bring all of that together. You know, and the other thought here is, you know, at PRCI, of course, you must have seen the report. Industry is going 10%, 11% every year. Sorry, I'm taking a little longer, but I think these are all relevant pieces here. In that 11% growth, independents are probably growing 20% year on year. So that's another huge opportunity that I really see as a trend that, you know, which we should always work upon, capture on, and not let it go out of our hands. Thank you.
Thank you, Vineet. My next question to everybody is, how does your firm approach innovation and PR strategies? And what kind of tools and technologies are you incorporating to enhance the client outcomes and drive growth? Why don't we start with Vineet first? Yes.
Now I'm off. You know, I used to get time. That's a benefit of being last, but that's okay. So I'll tell you what. Can I afford tools? Even at my age, I can't afford maximum of these tools because I feel, you know, if I suppose my 5 clients, you know, generally clients would always say, hey, no, you need to give us free, right? You go back to with a cost, okay, we want this, want to use this. They'll say, hey, you do it or whatever, right? So the way I really see it is technology, very important. Now, the downside of technology, say we all know ChatGPT, right? So last quarter, I asked my content team, the content head, to silently tap all the content written by teams and tell me, you know, what is the ChatGPT score of those content. You'll be shocked that at least 60 to 70% of the articles were above around 80% ChatGPT score. Which, of course, we thrashed because in the standards which we have put in is it should not more than 10%. Then even media takes it that way. So the problem here with technology is there is one way when you go digital, it helps you to sort of measure, it helps you to sort of see, you know, I'll talk about influencers as well a little bit, which is unavoidable nuisance, I believe. Sorry. But yeah, that's something which is very, and that's another thing as a trend which we have started doing. So I'll talk about it quickly. So from a technology point of view, I would say vary about ChatGPT. Tell team, I mean, generally I say don't use it. Just don't use it. Use your mind. Doesn't matter you make a mistake, doesn't matter. Come back, give us, clean copies, work upon it, we'll work upon it, and things like those. Data, yes, very important. You can't do without technology. So there are tools which we are working on. Data is these tools are very important when it comes to influencers. Now, if we really look at the influencer network, I will actually be surprised if the 80-20 rule here, 80% of influencers have 80% fake followers. 20% of influencers have 20% fake followers. That's the way I put it. So when you spend money on them, these tools help you to understand where to put your money in, right? So I think technology is definitely very important for us. We cannot live without it. Technology will help our clients to, tell them that go this way, don't go this way, and that's what as our role. Technology also gives you that sort of a hat of consultant, which is very, very important. Thank you.
If I may add, I think innovation is just overused. So it's important to understand what will innovation be in public relations in our industry. Tools and technologies are an enabler, but I wish and I would like more of us, be it independent or multinational firms, to invest in innovative frameworks. Now that is something that we haven't seen in our industry for the longest time. It's sad that we still haven't built a single standard framework for measurement today. It is sad that we have been constantly abdicating our functions, the important elements of our functions, be it CSR, be it public affairs, to other parties, and today they have become industries in their own right. And the innovations need to be within our own discipline and augmented by tools and technologies. So for example, I'll give an example and I'll stop after that. Stakeholder engagement, the heart of public relations is stakeholder engagement. And in the olden days, when we started our career and when we studied PR back in the 90s, there used to be this framework of power and interest grid. And we manually used to plot, not cohorts, not groups, but individuals within that cohort to really understand the power, interest, and reach of those individuals. And we used to tailor-make our public relations strategies to touch those people. Today, we make that sound like a big deal, but that was the fundamental of public relations. Now imagine if technology comes in and you have a repository of 25 years of relationships with individuals, be it media, government, industry bodies, etc., a repository with you that kind of tracks all of that, right? So how can you use technology then to kind of bring in this repository that rests with you? Knowledge management. How many public relations firms can boast of a very strong knowledge management system? And we've all been in existence for 25 years, 30 years. So how are we using technology to build all of this is the question. So I think we need to look a little bit more inwards and introspect about the innovation we brought about in our own workplace.
I'll go ahead then. But before I answer this innovation question, I feel, Vineet, I was a little stuck at your point when you mentioned about the readerships and circulations and not being able to figure that out. There is a very nice point which Sujit Patil of Godrej mentioned, and it is in the book also that Amit and Sujit have mentioned, that we as an industry, maybe we really need to move towards ROO rather than ROI. When we are trying to justify the budgets that we are charging from the clients, then maybe talking about circulations and readerships and ad values is relevant, but I think most clients now understands it is about the objective. I'll just take a very 30 seconds and take a very short example. There was a client that we were working on, Aisha Polaris Multics, and it is no more in existence, so I can talk about it. We figured out that it was a three-wheeler sort of a brand in the range of 90,000 to 120. Yeah, so we figured out we were doing all the vanilla PR, traditional, etc. And back then, digital was not the in thing. But we figured out most of the buyers are going to be shopkeepers for this. And shopkeepers generally do not have time to read newspapers in the morning. So they end up reading the evening newspapers. We call them eveningers. So we did a nationwide campaign wherein we only targeted eveningers and did a campaign which urged those shopkeepers utility-wise to purchase that vehicle. And it worked wonders for us. We charged 5 times of what we would usually charge, and it worked wonders for the clients as well. Just to take one example, in Haryana, they were selling about 10 vehicles on a day-to-day, on a daily basis. But within a period of 2 months that we did the campaign, it jumped to about 22, 23, which was a huge jump for those couple of months. And so I believe innovation also, if it is in a way in sync with the RO or the objective the client has, then it is great. If your objective is to create huge amounts of content, then ChatGPT is a great tool for you. But if your objective is to create meaningful content which resonates with audiences and understanding a specific area of our country, then ChatGPT would, like you said, could be a nuisance for you. So I think it is, innovation is also linked to RO or the objective that the client has, or what exactly is the need of the hour for the brand. And then probably innovation would have a different meaning for different brands, and so would these kind of tools.
So I'll tell you how we approach innovation at Veritas Reputation. So we have encouraged our teams to have an internal R&D team. So there are some volunteers. It's not compulsory. So volunteers come in and they decide this is the topic that they want to do a research on. And it need not be a primary research, it can be secondary research, something that we can do better. So we encourage internal discussions, then a lot of new ideas come up, so we backtest the ideas also, and if the idea is good or the tool is good, then we embed it into our servicing to the clients, into offerings to the client. So this is what we do, and it works. I mean, the news consumption survey, or someone, one girl told us that she is going to do how NFTs can be used in public relations. So I said, half of the agency will not know what is an NFT. So please do. So such kind of initiatives we do within our agency.
Yeah, I think to be very honest, and this is my thinking, even before we get into innovations and strategies, I think even if you sincerely deliver what we hired for, it's more than enough. We are hired for getting media coverage, and we are hired for giving good content. Itna bhi agar kar do to client khush ho jayega. So I think that's the core of it. What I believe that itself is lacking today. The kind of right coverage that matters to the client and the quality of content that we actually deliver. And I don't agree that ChatGPT is nuisance. It is a great tool if you know really to use it well. It can give you, Hemant is sitting here, I'm quoting you. It will give you the kind of a content that probably you expect or you have known. You know, if you know your subject better, then it will give you that kind of a quality of content. Second thing is obviously being brave to pivot when it's required to. So when metaverses and NFTs of the world came in, a lot of guys did experiment. We also created a lot of NFTs for a client. When VR was the theme, in fact, very recently we organized a press conference where we called all the journalists together, and we showed them a clubhouse that was probably in another country altogether. And we just didn't show them a clubhouse on the VR tool. We let them experience the clubhouse. They were actually roaming around the house. They were experiencing things in the house. And these things can be done. And you know, it's only how much can you actually, what lengths can you go to think and deliver that. But again, I'm coming, let's sincerely deliver what we get hired for. And that's still a media coverage.
I think self-deprecation is good, but not to this extent. I really feel that
Can't
as an
agree
industry, as an industry, we have, I think we've come a long way. I think our clients' needs have evolved. They've changed from, I think they're also understanding the limitations of just looking at public relations, PR, as press relations. I think we've moved way beyond. So I think there's so much opportunity, Vikram, for us to kind of look at. And in this room itself, I see so many firms, Blue Ink and Evoque, etc., who kind of identified their niche and are playing to that. And I'm sure doing some great innovation. So I think there's a lot of learning from each other. So I think.
Thanks. I think it's been a very interesting discussion, and we could have gone on and on, but I don't think I have time to pose any further questions. So we would like to open the floor for Q&As from the audiences. Anybody? Yes, Asim.
Usually when we talk about innovation, most of the time we tend to talk about technology. Would love to hear from you if you have an example of innovation where it was not about technology but innovation otherwise in public relations.
Who is the question for? Nandita?
You can answer. Anybody who has an example.
So Asim, I've got a bit of an academic in me. So I always try and kind of see, because as a student of PR back in the 90s, I was so much in love with what I studied. And even today I feel that as an industry, we're only kind of still skimming the surface. There's a lot to be done, and I think stakeholder engagement was a really interesting thing for me. So at the practice, we focus on building frameworks. We focus on helping our people understand the full expanse of public relations. Even if it's a simple task that a client asks us to do, they need to understand why they are doing it and what is going to be the outcome and impact to the client. So we've structured and created frameworks that help our team understand why they do what they do. So that's one. The stakeholder engagement tool that we spoke about, we spent a lot of time in understanding how we do stakeholder engagement, and we created a whole framework called the Cube for it. We integrated it with TalkWalker. TalkWalker is a listening and monitoring tool, and we were amongst the first firms to actually become a subscriber to TalkWalker. It was a huge investment, but we decided to make it. And then we said, how do we integrate that listening and monitoring and sentiment analysis with Cube, right? With the stakeholder analysis that we do for clients. And how do we get them to move away from very broad structures of these are my stakeholders to individuals within stakeholders who we would like to inform and influence. So those are some of the kind of frameworks that we're building. Measurement, been at it for a long time. We've been lucky to have clients who've had very interesting models, but how do you also integrate to see what really works as a standard for the organization? So we spent a lot of time trying to develop measurement, at least a basic format and a framework of measurement for the organization that you can then adapt, right? Modularize and adapt for others. So that's a lot of work that we do internally from that perspective, from innovation perspective.
All right, thank you.
So, Asim, I think very valid question. One of the incidents which I would talk about is, so we have, say, around 3 dozen startup clients. There was a mental health client which we had. They were again a startup, online services and blah, blah, blah. They wanted a platform. What we did is we got only our clients to come together for a session with them. It was actually, if you put it in an innovation, probably not. But I realized that we have this kitty of clients with us, why not two? And they were very focusing on a startup because that's where the all the buzz you have, the working hours and pressure and, no structures and blah, blah, blah. So with that client, in fact, that particular meeting became so fruitful and, he got a lot of leads, he got a lot of learning from there. In fact, one of our clients went and funded him as well. So things like those. Now, what has happened is, it was not a PR. Means, if you ask me, was I doing a PR? Probably yes or no. There are both thoughts here. But what happened there is these clients who sort of met these guys were very happy. They said, oh, they have a point of view, they have learnings for them. So which took us to a different league altogether, and Touchwood helped us to retain a lot of these guys. So innovation is actually technology, yes, that's the first thought which comes in when it's innovation, but innovation as content. Innovation could be a platform. We do not want to make it a mass news, we just want to go to a particular platform, create this buzz and move out. Make sure that that platform does everything for you. So innovation could be multiple things here.
I think we'll have to end the session now.
I think we've got possibly time for one more question in case.
It's already 15 past 4. Do we have one? All right. A very quick one, please.
It is not a question. My name is Sanjay. I represent Ants Digital. And I've been both sides of the, I've been on the corporate side, I've been on the client side, I've been on the, agency side. And I'm also dwelling with a very different kind of a, solution that we provide to our clients, where we run a digital marketing company, and at the same time we are providing PR to all our clients who are, asking for it. And believe me, when it comes to innovation or it comes to any kind of a change that the client is seeking, he needs a magic potion which I think independent firms can only provide. To say that, okay, I'll give you PR, I'll provide you with digital, and I'll provide you with whatever you require, which helps you achieve your objectives. So I think, we are at that helm where, as independent agencies, I feel really proud that we have the capability and the capacity and the agility to make that change. And I'm so glad to hear all of you speaking about innovation and speaking about various things that one can really do. So thank you so much for all of your point of view. Thanks. Thank you.
Thanks for that comment, Sanjay.